we just want to dig into the pitfalls of being obsessed about Google Ads attribution, and we'll walk through like how the models have changed through the years and through time, and we could just explain that obsessing over attribution can really hurt more than it help. How's it going, everybody? It's Gene Villanose once again back with another episode of the PPC Cave. My setup, before we get into the actual episode, but my setup right now is a little wonky. You can see that this mic is almost 3/4 of the whole screen, so it looks really strange. But my progress or my setup is a work in progress right now. I'm doing things differently, so a little bit of an update there if you see me on Spotify video or YouTube video. But today, our subject matter is don't obsess about Google Ads attribution. This is going to be a little bit more of a technical episode. We flow in and out of technical episodes just because we have to give some of the super geeks, which is like me, some love out there, and you just can't be always surface level. But anyway, don't obsess about Google Ads attribution. And if you know what Google Ads attribution is, then you understand that it's gone through so many major changes throughout the years, from it just being defaulted to last click attribution. And then, of course, we have data-driven attribution now. Since we have more data from Google Ads, they know how to partition what part of the funnel, what part of the search journey is going to be attributed that conversion attribution, or that conversion, or that click, or whatever it may be. So a lot of the times we do have clients that ask or are super obsessed about this. And, we just want to dig into the pitfalls of being obsessed about Google Ads attribution, and we'll walk through like how the models have changed through the years and through time, and we could just explain that obsessing over attribution can really hurt more than it help, just because since the dawn of time, advertisers, us, we've always struggled with the same question: which ad, which click, which search keyword really gets or deserves the credit. But that's something that I'll answer at the end. But yeah, I've actually been reading a book. I'm not going to go into what book I'm reading, but it's a pretty famous book. It's a green book. If you know, you know. And, they talk about attribution, and something that I reflect on also. And like I said earlier, a lot of the clients that I have I wouldn't say obsess, but they're a little bit like, hey, what, why, where, how, which are all fair questions. It's something that they deserve to know, just because, I'm managing your account, I'm managing your budget and spend. But I think it's just this is going to be a good episode for us to kind of set expectation. We always talk about setting expectation as a freelancer, as an agency. And I think it's just really good to understand what data attribution is and why we shouldn't really go too crazy and drive ourselves crazy when we don't understand something regarding Google Ads attribution. Yeah, and another thing that I've been trying to get back on TikTok. So Gene Villanose on TikTok. I used to have a pretty active account where I would do super cringe, Google Ads stuff, but now it's just basically me making that account like a clip account for the PPC Cave. But I'll start to answer questions again, because I was actually following some Google Ads people on TikTok, just going live. I wanted to see what they're talking about. That would be a different episode. But it's just very interesting. And this topic was also brought up. So going through attribution models through time, as I mentioned before, before 2017, last click was the default. Like, we all understand that all the credit went to the final click before a specific conversion. I mean, this was great for simplicity, but we all understand the bias towards bottom funnel ads or bottom funnel search keywords. It'd be the last keyword that you click or the last ad that you click. We understand, and there is still that bias, just because I'm pretty sure data-driven attribution uses still a pretty big weight, for the last click. I'm not really sure how that's partitioned all throughout the search journey. Google has been very secretive and cryptic when it comes to letting people like us understand the behind the scenes to how they attribute a conversion. So that's yet to be figured out. But yeah, that was essentially a lot of the times that's where a lot of the Google people or Google Ads people that I know started off. You understood last click. That was the only way to attribute a conversion back in the day. And then they had first click. This is giving 100% credit to the very first interaction. This is good because, or this was good for specific type of campaigns, like obviously like brand awareness, just because the rest of the journey, the rest of the clicks are ignored. So just focusing on the very, very first click. And then we had linear. This would split the credit evenly across each touch point. It's, back then it was pretty fair, but it's oversimplified, just because if there's 5 different touch points and then you're splitting it by 20% each, that doesn't, that there has to be more weight. And basically, that was just like divvying it up in a simple, super like nonchalant manner, so that's linear. Then we have time decay, heavier credit on clicks closer to the conversion. So basically from mid to the end, there's more weight on those specific clicks or specific actions, and this was good if you had a longer sales cycle, if you had a premium product perhaps, and then it has multiple touch points, or if you have a premium service and maybe you're B2B and it's not a D2C service where you really need to do a lot of research. You may need to talk to higher ups. You may need to get, maybe a whole board on, a board on board. That's what I was going to say. A bunch of people to vote a specific way, essentially extending the sales cycle or, the sales journey regarding, either service or product. This time decay was a really good option for you. And then you had position based or U-shaped. This was credited to the first and last interactions, and it's lighter in the middle. So it would maybe be 40, 20, and then 40%. From the first interaction or click of search keyword or ad, not so much in the middle, and then a lot again at the end. So this was good, I guess, for lead gen marketers. And then last but not least, data-driven attribution. This is what a lot of people use now since we've migrated from Universal Analytics to Google Analytics 4, just because of the sheer amount of data that Google has implemented, and the way that we could capture that data now is more sophisticated. We just have a lot more in place to really understand the full journey. So the machine learning is essentially distributing credit across the journey based on the real actual paths to conversion, whatever that conversion action looks like. If it's a sale, if it's a submit form, if it's a specific action, that's Google's, essentially today, that's Google's default conversion attribution, but it's still technically a black box. The reason why it's a black box is just because we don't know the exact way that Google is going to partition percentage wise the attribution to specific keywords or conversions or ads or products. So it's still very, very fuzzy, right? A lot of the times when I'm speaking to a client, they're going to say, and I love all my clients. I don't have to say that every time, but I preface it with that just because, this is a real world experience. And a lot of my clients, I feel like a lot of my clients think they got me an aha moment when they're like, hey, why did it say we have conversion value of XYZ here on date XYZ, and in Google Ads it says this, and Google Analytics it says this, and Shopify says this? As much as I just want to say data-driven attribution is not perfect, you have to give a little bit more of a concrete answer. Like I mentioned earlier, it's super important for clients to understand not only what is driving conversions for them to optimize their business, for them to bring in more inventory, for them to double down advertising and marketing on a specific service, but it's important for them just to understand, because Google is in general a big black box, and it's hard for you to pay a freelancer, pay an agency, if you don't have that trust that they could explain in layman's terms what is going on here or what is not going on here. So a lot of the times I do essentially go through the different type of attributions. It's a lengthy conversation, and most of the time some of the clients will drop off and just be like, okay, dude, that's over the head. You're the expert. I get it. You know this. I don't know this. Let me go focus on the business. But there are clients that are super, what is the word, interested in how that works, so they will question me, and I love that, just because it makes me communicate a little bit more sharp, a little bit more concise. I have to really think about how to communicate things, and how to let them know that we should not be obsessed about Google Ads attribution. A lot of the time we see the Google Ads attribution fail within Performance Max, generally just because Performance Max is a black box, and this is where I have to tell clients, hey, if we're running multiple Performance Max campaigns, it's just better for us to understand, maybe a little bit less obsession of the attribution and a little bit more higher level of where the traffic is going and if there's conversions to that traffic. Just because how I will create campaigns is, okay, well, XYZ products or services will need traffic. And if XYZ products and services reciprocate conversion or conversion value, then that means there's data there to say that this is a successful campaign. So a lot of the times when it's Performance Max, we have to understand that PMax is blending search, shopping, YouTube, and display, all these different platforms. And Google isn't necessarily revealing which channel actually drove the result. There's definitely software now that can, maybe find this out a little bit more. You'll have a little bit more of an idea if you're putting in a script or, Opteo. I'll get into Opteo later. But Google's always kind of been cryptic or secretive when it comes to things like that. And it's hard to optimize asset groups or budgets with that type of opaque, translucent, I guess, or not transparent data. So a lot of the times I tell, hey, to my clients, please just don't obsess over this attribution, because every platform is going to try to claim credit. Doesn't matter if you're on Meta, doesn't matter if you're on email, doesn't matter if you're on Google Ads. Every platform is going to say, nope, they clicked us. So we're going to say that we got this, conversion. And to be honest, I think Meta is the worst. I'm not a big Meta guy, but I do run some Meta ads, and I just turn it on and it starts saying that there's all these conversions, and I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I guess so. But I don't try to obsess over it too much, is what I'm trying to say. What matters is not having all of the data in all of your, where you think the data is. It's there. There's no missing data. I have all of the data. That doesn't really matter quite as much as having the right data and being able to use that right quality data for applicable, things for your business to be able to optimize either your service or your product. That's the most important thing. A lot of the times, people, marketers, advertisers, business owners, they brag. They're saying, I have 100,000 email list of people. And I'm like, okay, out of those 100,000, who's engaged, who's converting, who's clicking, so it's the same way with data. It's like, okay, you have all these different data channels. You have all these different ways to look at a specific account. If it's, call rail, or if it's triple whale, whatever it may be, you think you're consolidating all your data. You have all these silos of data, but what are you doing with that data? I'd rather have a fourth of that data and understand a clear direction to optimizing PPC or optimizing Google Ads than having all of that and just it's white noise. Essentially, you have no direction. You have paralysis, or you have analysis paralysis because you have too much data. So that's what's essentially obsessing over Google Ads attribution is going to take you. I feel like it's the gateway drug to that, so just nip it in the bud and just understand that there are things that we're not going to know in regards to Google Ads attribution. I'm not saying don't have your conversion settings set up, don't have your GA4 set up, don't have all these things implemented to analyze the account. Of course, Google Ads is analysis, and I harp on that more than, I should. I always say we're here to analyze before we move forward. But when it comes to just super obsession of, okay, well, let's turn off that ad then, since it only had 2 conversions and this one had 4, it's saying we have to really focus on the attribution of the conversion, so let's turn that off. No, in 2025 the journey is different. It's super, super different, where you're going to need high funnel ads, low funnel ads, brand search, high generic search campaigns. All of that is a mixture of how people search nowadays. And despite me saying that we don't want to obsess over Google Ads attribution, it has gotten better throughout the years, and I feel like it will still continue to get better. But attribution has evolved, but no model of attribution is going to be perfect. Google Ads data should always be cross-checked against GA4, Shopify, whatever CRM or backend website you're using. Focus on data quality and actionable insights, and don't chase every click path. Oh, that got clicked here. Don't chase that. Attribution is a tool for decision making, not the absolute truth. And in closing, it's really, something when it comes to clients arguing about attribution, who gets the credit, it's just really about making smarter budget decisions with your account, right? Use the data you trust, don't obsess over perfection, and keep your focus on what actually drives growth. I think that's super, super important. And if you are trying to drive growth, of course, subscribe to the PPC Cave. But we have a wonderful sponsor in Opteo. And like I said before, and like I will say in many, many months, hopefully to come, if you want to try Opteo, they usually do 14-day trials. Just mention the PPC Cave and they will get double that and give you a 28-day trial. So all you have to go to opteo.com/theppccave. It is in the item or in the video description, and it helps us provide more videos like this. The longevity of giving y'all content that you could digest, that you could use, is, a pleasure for us also. So what I really want to say is, if you could help the PPC Cave by doing that, you're a hero to us. So again, we release every Monday, 12 a.m. Mountain Time, the PPC Cave at gmail.com. If you have any questions, we're on Spotify video, YouTube, regular Spotify. We're on social media, IG Reels, TikTok. Ask questions. Ask questions on any of our socials. Comment on here. We're always open to answering any of your questions. Again, you can email us at theppccave@gmail.com. And if there's nothing else, bye for now.